The United States has been dealing with wildfires, floods, a hurricane, along with severe drought. Meanwhile, in one of Europe's largest saltwater lagoons, tons of fish washed up on the shores, leading to calls by environmentalists for urgent action. The climate crisis is only intensifying, and we have been continuously tracking the impact of climate change on different parts of the world. We are starting off with the latest from America. Record rainfall has triggered floods in the southern U.S. state of Tennessee. At least 21 people have lost their lives, 30 remain missing. This has been described as the state's deadliest disaster in recent decades. Emergency crew personnel are struggling to reach the flood-hit areas as roads have been extensively damaged. Hundreds have been left homeless. Several areas remain cut off. Strong winds toppled trees, which fell on buildings and vehicles. Homes have been reduced to rubble. The region received 17 inches of rain in less than a day. The rainfall broke the state's 24-hour record of 13.6 inches in 1982. Rural areas have been the worst hit, raising concerns over infrastructure and access to the remote regions. Governor Bill Lee has warned that the situation remains dangerous. He added that the officials' top priority is on recovery efforts. The destruction and loss from the floods clearly visible. Some streets have turned into rivers. Damaged cars dot the remaining roads.
Well, the difference, of course, for this particular flood is the record level of flooding. I think we received about 15 inches of rain in a 12-hour period of time. Not sure about that particular number, but close to that, which is very different than flooding we've had before. But I'm sure there will be assessments after the fact. What happened, how it happened. Are there ways that we can look to mitigate this going forward? But right now we know this is a result of a record flood, like that community has not seen before with regard to the amount of rainfall.
More than 4,000 people have been left without power. Shops and houses have been covered with mud. The residents are saying that it will take them months to recover from this disaster.
I mean, it's a total loss. We had about 6 feet of water inside the restaurant. All the equipment, everything has been destroyed, flipped over, washed out. We've got stuff from other businesses that are actually washed into our place with the windows smashed out. But it's totally destroyed. There's nothing salvageable.
As Tennessee battles deadly floods, the U.S. East Coast was hit by Tropical Storm Henri. Nearly 10 states have been battered by heavy rains and floods. President Joe Biden has warned of widespread consequences as the storm knocked off power supplies to hundreds of thousands of homes. Henri was downgraded to a tropical storm from a hurricane as it neared the U.S. coast. However, it still led to significant damages, especially in New Jersey, which was left submerged in the floodwaters. Some parts of New Jersey received 8 inches of rainfall. Flood alerts have also been issued in New York. Several people have been left stranded as roads and bridges remain closed. President Biden has vowed to provide support to disaster-hit areas.
I want to begin by expressing my deepest condolences for the sudden and tragic loss of life due to this flash flood. I know we've reached out to the community and we stand ready to offer them support. I've asked the administrator to speak to Governor Lee of Tennessee right away, and we'll offer any assistance they need for this terrible moment.
At least 10 states are in need of aid. They include Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, as well as New York. The state of Connecticut remains one of the worst hit. Its governor has warned that recovery from the storm will take a long time and that thousands are expected to face power outages for the next 2 days.
We still have a way to go. Most of the winds are dissipating, but the rains are with us, and there's a real risk of flash flooding. The ground is so saturated that it can flood with just another inch of rain. But let me give you the good news. The good news is that if we have 28,000 folks still without power, I've had strong assurances from Joe Nolan and Eversource that the overwhelming majority, 90+%, will have their power restored.
Before being downgraded, Henri was expected to be New England's first hurricane in 30 years. Hurricane Bob had claimed 17 lives when it hit the region in 1991. The US, in fact, is among the world's most hurricane-prone countries. Why is that so? Our next report explains the science behind hurricanes and how they are formed. Earlier in the show, we told you about the risks that children are also facing due to extreme weather events. In fact, the United Nations has warned that 1 billion children, that's half of the world's population of children, are living in disaster-prone countries. We get you one such story from Mexico, where children became the casualties of the climate crisis. On your screen is the visual of the funeral held in Mexico's Veracruz state. The region was battered by Hurricane Grace, which triggered mudslides. 5 children are being laid to rest, the youngest being only 15 days old. The siblings and their mother were killed when mudslides buried their home in a mountainous region. The only survivors of the family are the father and a 7-year-old. The child was unable to bid a final goodbye to his siblings as he is recovering from injuries that he suffered during the disaster. As tragic as it may sound, the truth is that our children's future is at stake because of climate change. UNICEF has warned that climate crisis is becoming a child rights crisis. According to the UNICEF, countries in Africa and Asia are at extremely high risk when it comes to natural disasters. These countries include India, Pakistan, Myanmar, China, Afghanistan, Sudan, Ethiopia, Madagascar. In some countries, children are exposed to more than one calamity, and in others, even 4 of them. Meanwhile, China is still reeling under the aftermath of the deadly floods that struck Henan province. 1 month on, floods have battered the same region. 2 cities in Henan have issued highest flood level warnings. Emergency crew personnel have been deployed as heavy rains are expected to continue. Coming up on your screen are visuals from the Shanxi province. Bridges have been damaged as water levels in the rivers have been rising. Several roads have also caved in. More than 100 counties and districts are witnessing record rainfall. Flood levels have exceeded the warning line in at least 6 rivers and 6 hydrometric stations. More than 2,500 people have been evacuated. Over 18,000 have been affected by the floods in Shanxi alone. Torrential rains have also triggered landslides and waterlogging. Houses have been damaged. Thousands of people left without power. Many villages remain cut off, and rescue workers are using rubber boats to reach the flood-hit areas. Residents and officials remain on high alert. In July, floods claimed more than 300 lives in the Henan province. Meanwhile, China's economy incurred losses amounting to $20 billion due to the floods in the Henan province last month. Back-to-back disasters have now sparked the calls for insurance. China is one of the world's most disaster-prone countries. Its cities have become victims of urban flooding due to infrastructure development on floodplains. Losses from natural disasters continue to mount. In 2018, the country incurred losses to the tune of $16 billion. Climate disasters cost the Chinese economy $18 billion in 2019 and $27 billion last year. Despite this, there is low insurance coverage for climate disasters in the country. Only 10% of the calamities are covered. This is much lower than the global average of 40%. While businesses are keen on insurance, local governments find it to be a burden. Disaster mitigation is done at the micro level in China. There is often lack of risk management awareness. Local governments are also unwilling to pay insurers, as funds for insurance are drawn from the coffers of the provinces and not the federal budget. Beijing has been accused of neglecting this issue. Disaster insurance hardly found a mention in China's 2021-2025 Economic and Social Development Plan. And wildfires continue to rage across the U.S. state of California, leaving behind charred ruins. It took only a few minutes for the fires to turn a mobile home park into ashes. Take a look. One of Europe's largest saltwater lagoons has witnessed its fish stocks decline in recent years. Environmentalists are demanding action after 20 tons of dead fish washed up on the shores. Our next report tells you more. This is the Mar Menor Lagoon in Murcia, situated on Spain's southeastern Mediterranean coast. It is one of Europe's largest saltwater lagoons. The lagoon was once a magnet for tourism and a sanctuary for marine life, but it has seen fish stocks plummet in recent years. After more than 20 tons of dead fish washed up on its shores, campaigners are warning the damage may be irreversible. Similar mass die-offs have taken place in 2016 and 2019.
It's 4 days now that there are appearing huge masses of dead fishes stranded at the beaches. And as from Ecologists in Action, we are warning decades ago, we are afraid that the whole lagoon has become a huge fertilizer pool.
While the regional government blamed the deaths on recent high temperatures, ecologists have warned for years that runoff from nearby agricultural facilities and pollution from urban development has severely degraded the water quality. High levels of phosphates and nitrates in the water cause huge blooms of algae to flourish. These block out sunlight from penetrating the water, reducing oxygen levels and eventually suffocating marine life. Environmentalists are calling for action. Local residents have staged protests.
We are facing a huge problem with pollutants, basically nitrates we dilute and go to the underground waters, and also phosphates we remain on the surface, on the soil. As also the whole topography of the basin has been dramatically changed. All this makes that the huge runoff coming into the lagoon full of phosphates and the underground waters getting in overloaded with nitrates are causing this disaster which if authorities don't act quickly is going to be non-reverse.
On Saturday, dozens of demonstrators lined the road where cyclists of the La Vuelta de España race were due to pass. They were demanding an end to the contamination of the lagoon. Local prosecutors have opened an investigation. Bureau Report, WION World is One. And it's the season of trumpet trees in Latin America, a beautiful exhibit of nature that only lasts for about a week. To capture their short-lived beauty, residents of Rio de Janeiro came out in large groups to take pictures of the pink trumpet trees, an act that has now turned into a civic movement of sorts. Take a look at our next report to find out more.
Ipe, or the pink trumpet trees, is a genus of flowering plant in the family of the Bignoniaceae, a variety of the trumpet tree found in Brazil, but only for 6 days, and that too during the coldest time of the year.
The Ipe flowering draws our attention. That is why they are planted in the city. A very beautiful plant. It flowers during the period when it rains the least. It loses its leaves and the flowers become totally visible. Only branches with flowers remain.
As flores ficam totalmente visíveis, só tem galho com flor.
To make sure that they don't miss out on the opportunity to appreciate the beauty of the Ipe, scores of residents in Rio de Janeiro came out in groups to click pictures and share them on social media, an act they didn't think would turn into a movement. A group of residents in the Ferguixier neighborhood are now campaigning to plant more Ipe trees in the area. Though found in abundance in the Amazon forest, it was only recently removed from the list of threatened species. Thousands of Ipes were uprooted for construction projects, its timber famously used for the Coney Island boardwalk in Brooklyn. However, its use has been reduced steadily since 2008. Yet, a lot more remains to be done.
We're a part of a group for tree planting in Ferguixier neighborhood. I'm an environmental lawyer. I'm always with them planting, demanding from the government for more trees. And we've observed that people do plant trees, but unfortunately, they're not helping to take care of the trees as needed, at least till they reach adulthood.
The Ferguixier tree planting group is urging residents to plant more trumpet trees. And since these trees act as a local climate regulator, residents are being urged to plant them in the hottest parts of the city as well. That being said, not all neighbors are tree-friendly, and for some, having them on their sidewalk is a hassle. Even still, their social media campaign has gained traction, receiving enthusiastic responses.
When we published on social media, there was a boom. Our followers loved it, shared it and started sending us more locations. So the roadmap duplicated and we are reaching 100 spots of Ipe trees around the city, Rio of the Ipe trees.
The trumpet trees are native to the tropical Americas. The Ipe also happens to be the national tree of Paraguay. And Brazil has about 14 species of trumpets. A yellow variety of the trumpet has begun lining some of the regions already. And the end of winter may also welcome the rare white variety.
This time of year, the Ipe trees become an attraction in the city. So we thought about planting more so people can visit and view the spectacle of flowering Ipe trees. And it also raises awareness about the importance of the trees in the city. Not only for their aesthetic value, but for the shade and better quality of life provided by trees.
Bureau Report WION, World is One.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.